Hi everyone, this is audap. Let's continue our game of Caffeine, Victoria's Legacy, running on Nintendo Switch. As I walk into the room, I see Eliza standing there, stuffing a chocolate bar into her tiny mouth.
Taka!
Where'd you go? She was just here a moment ago. Was she really here in this room? Was I hallucinating? Just as I start to seriously doubt my sanity, Eliza pops up in front of me from out of nowhere. She apparently cleaned her mouth.
Good morning, Taka. I'm so glad you came.
Well, how'd you know, huh?
But next time, you should knock before you come in. What you just witnessed was so embarrassing for me. You will not let anyone know what I was up to.
What were you up to? You mean eating chocolate? Nothing to be embarrassed about.
It is embarrassing how I ate my chocolate.
You were cute. That wasn't embarrassing. You were cute.
I was cute?
Eliza's face starts to glow a faint redness on her cheeks. But that only lasts for a few seconds as she starts to ponder my words.
Really, Taka? You think a girl with chocolate just all over her mouth is appealing? Anyone else who saw me like that would probably shake their heads in disbelief. They would question my modesty and complain to my papa of my disgraceful behavior. It could also turn into a huge scandal, and I would disappoint my papa.
Disgraceful behavior? A huge scandal? You were just eating chocolate. Her family must be really strict. Poor Eliza. Can't even enjoy chocolate the way she wants. She must have a lot of stress. I just saw you disappear in front of me. Was that caffeine? Oh yes, I teleported myself to the bathroom. That's really convenient. You can just teleport yourself every time you need to go to the bathroom. Actually, I usually walk to the bathroom, but I was just too embarrassed to walk past you with a mouthful of chocolate. Why were you eating raw chocolate? It's so bitter. The chocolate isn't just for enjoyment, it is to improve my senses. Cocoa is one of the most common flavors in medium to dark roast coffee beans. Identifying the natural bitterness is a prerequisite to performing teleportation. The more sensitive your taste buds are to the cocoa flavor notes, the farther away you can teleport yourself. That sounds so cool. Is that why you're eating eating these bars of chocolate? To identify the differences in taste? Yes, that's right. If you don't know how chocolate from the Mayan highlands tastes, how will you be able to identify it? The same goes for different kinds of fruits, flowers, and nuts. You eat flowers as well? No one eats flowers, Taka. You just need to smell flowers. Oh, right. Since you're here, would you like me to brew you a cup of coffee? Let me just take out the coffee beans. And the cups? Is there anything I can do to help? Just sit down, Taka. Let me handle this. Alright. As I sit down and observe Eliza prepare the coffee beans, I can't help but notice that she doesn't seem to be affected by the news of the assassination at all. Was Alice exaggerating about its impact? Or maybe Eliza didn't hear about the assassination. Anyway, I'm not planning to tell her. There's no reason to dampen the mood. I stare at the table. 6 plates of coffee beans occupy one side of the table, from light colored to dark roasted. The subtle aromas clash with each other like a 6-way air battle. Aren't we going to brew coffee? We are, and this is the fun part. We are going to smell the coffee grounds for all the coffee beans and decide which one to brew for today. These are all my precious collection of coffee beans I brought from home. Coffee beans from Maya, Axumite? I gotta learn how to pronounce that. Sumatra and Java. There is even Kona. Kona? Yes, Kona from the volcanic plantations of the Kingdom of Hawaii, one of the most sought-after coffee beans in the world. Kona coffee beans? Aren't they the really expensive coffee beans I ruined? Ocean would be shocked to see a whole plate of them just sitting there. Eliza picks up a cup of coffee grounds and sends it an inch away from her nose. She starts sniffing the coffee grounds with pleasure.
one is so fruity. There are floral notes of rose and bee berries as well. The citric aromas are flowing out from these axamite coffee grounds. There's also chamomile blooming in the foreground. What are you waiting for, Taka? Try smelling them.
I pick up a cup and start sniffing. I close my eyes in search of an aroma I can identify. Where am I? Why am I here? Hey, Taka, are you here as well? You've arrived at Coffee Dreamscape. Coffee Dreamscape? Yes, you can find all the different aromas and flavors here. Do you smell any kind of fruit here, Taka? I spot a few lemons hanging on the trees to my right. A citric fruit like lemon? You're really good. What else can you find? Apples? I see apples hanging on the trees to my left. You're doing really well. I'm surprised your senses are so developed already. Taka, you have a really great sense of smell. I'm surprised about that myself. If I concentrate, it's really not that hard. Now, which coffee bean do you prefer? How about we try a light roasted Aximite coffee bean? It's from a family estate in Yirgachefe. Yirgachefe? The flowery notes will help to soothe your body and make you feel more relaxed. Sounds good. I'll take your recommendation. I watch as Eliza skillfully uses a coffee plunger to brew a cup of coffee. She sings a tune as she waits patiently for the coffee to brew. She uses no timer, as if she trusts her instincts to find the right time to stop. After a while, she pushes the plunger down and pours me a cup of coffee, bright and clear. The floral notes burst out like a sea of lavender in a field where the horizon spreads towards the skyline. I close my eyes and find myself once again back at the lake, where the sky is vivid blue and the half-bare mountain reflected on the surface of the motionless lake. Citric, oranges, grapes, and various apples appear before me. I raise my arm trying to pick out the fruit, only to find myself catching the air. Am I still in a dream I am still in a dream after all. Drinking coffee is like appreciating a beautiful landscape painting. Do you see all the fruits hanging on the trees, Taka? Yes, I do. I see oranges and grapes and some apples as well. There's also a huge variety of berries, blueberries and raspberries, limes and plums. The fruit forest slowly disappears before my eyes. Wait, where did all the oranges and limes go? The best is yet to come. Keep tasting it and you will soon find new flavor notes to appreciate. I keep my eyes shut while having a second taste of the coffee. The coffee has cooled down. A gentle warmth fills my body. With the dominating floral notes gone, I find myself invaded by a new experience. Bright, mellow notes, subtle but flavorsome, have taken over my senses. I smell spices. They are subtle, but now they are clear to me as ink on paper. A rain of spices appears in the air. Cinnamon, cardamom, and many unknown spices of different shapes drop from the sky. That's when I spot the chocolate river flowing in the background. A distinct cocoa taste is now floating in the pungent air. Pungent, roasty flavors can really add a little spark to the coffee itself, don't they? Sour, sweet, bitter, and the twitchy feeling of spices. Every flavor is having its moment, like a painting, like a symphony. Every sensory organ plays its part. The smell, the touch, the taste. Even my memories are stirred up like a lost book. I start to visualize good food and missed company. The taste of exotic fruit and the mellow scent of green, grassy fields. I relax, enjoying this gentle morning with a bit of late summer warmth. I find myself lying back in my chair. I step into a world of calm and peace. I close my eyes, surrendering to the lingering sense of peace that is overwhelming me. Bzz. I wake up to the tender voices from outside the windows. A few birds are seen sharing a fat, giant caterpillar. After that, the air is quiet and calm. I look around to see Eliza sitting beside me, reading a book. She puts it down when she realizes I'm awake. Did you have a good sleep, Taka? Are you feeling energized now? I feel so full of energy. This is strange. Didn't I just have a cup of coffee? Instead of waking me up, I fell asleep. That's what a good cup of coffee is supposed to do. It relaxes your body and allows your soul to heal. It was listening to your body and decided you didn't get enough good sleep. That's why it was begging you to get some sleep. Is that so? Now, would you like to have another cup of coffee? That sounds great, but I seem to be forgetting something. What time is it now? How long did I sleep? Relax, Taka. You only took a 1-hour nap. Just 1 hour? I think I need to get started with caffeine. After all, that's why I'm here. Oh, sorry, I totally forgot. But certainly that should be the easy part, right? The easy part? What do you mean? If you were able to identify so many flavors from coffee, then the power of caffeine should come naturally within you. Did you feel an enormous gush of energy flowing within you when you had that cup of coffee? I did not feel anything like that. I only felt like sleeping. Maybe you just have been trying hard enough. Look at me. I gaze in shock as 2 fireballs appear from nowhere. But Eliza seems to be having a lot of fun. See? All I have to do is recall the pungent flavors in the cup of coffee I just had, and I can easily perform caffeine. I can also teleport myself. Oh, where'd you go? Eliza? Hello? Don't scare me like that. Try it, Taka. Just recall the spices you identified in that cup of coffee. You make it sound like it's so easy. But I really don't feel a thing. No spark, no heat at all. Nothing, not even a sparkle. Oh, wait. Is it because you don't know anything about Victoria's legacy? Victoria's legacy? You don't know about Victoria's legacy? Princess Victoria's great escape? The story of Blanca Fleur? Lady Argyle's miracle? I have no idea what you're talking about. Oh, is that why? Then of course you can't perform caffeine. To perform caffeine, you must know about Victoria's legacy. But what exactly is Victoria's legacy? They are a collection of stories about the founding of the city of Victoria. It's the gift that Princess Victoria left behind to her descendants. First, do you know how the power of caffeine is actually released? Not exactly. The power of caffeine is stored in coffee beans, which contain memories of the earth. When baristas brew a cup of coffee, the memories of the past are transferred through our senses by flavors and aromas released by the coffee. One of the most important memories is the legacy of Princess Victoria. Princess Victoria was the founder of this city. She once sailed across the 7 seas, crossing the Atlantic, reaching the Mayan highlands and the Amazons. She sailed past the Cape of Horn towards Reunion Island, reaching the Aksumite Empire, Mocha, and finally to the southern seas where Sumatra and Java lie. She has been to nearly every coffee region in the world. Her adventures were witnessed by the earth that she once set foot upon. The earth remembers, and the earth passes that information into the coffee beans. To consume coffee is like receiving part of our founder's soul and abilities, but in order to receive her blessing, we need to know where to look. I need to know where to look. You need to know the story of Princess Victoria's adventures in order to receive her blessing. Without knowing the story, you cannot receive her powers. Picture the main library hall that you just passed by. You probably noticed its main features, the glass roof, the shelves of books lining up along both sides of the hall. But if I ask you how many spiral staircases there are, would you remember? I wouldn't remember. But now that I've asked you, next time you will look at the number of spiral staircases in the main hall, because I've directed your attention. The same goes for stories. Once you've heard them, you will know where to look for the power of caffeine. I get it now. So the stories are like catalysts. Now all I need to do is find a book and read about the stories. I have a book that just fits that purpose. We both walk to the main library hall. The librarian glances at us for a brief moment, but slowly turns away and says nothing. We walk towards a corner, with a sign hanging on the ceiling that says, History Section. Numerous hardcover books with the color of red oak populate the shelves. Here it is. This is the book that you should be reading in order to learn more about Victoria's legacy. Read the title of the book, The Caffeine Wars, Victoria's Legacy. This book records the history of the Caffeine Wars, the period where the Victorian Empire was at its pinnacle. Then one day came the prophecy of Princess Victoria. The prophecy states that Princess Victoria would, one day, become Queen of Victoria and create the most powerful city-state in the world. Before the Praetorians were able to capture the princess, she made a daring escape on her caravel and was pursued for 40 days and 40 nights until they reached the Mayan highlands. I've flipped through a few of the pages of the book. It is a picture book with illustrations on each page, depicting scenes that happened centuries ago by people who have long left this earth. So, what kind of caffeine would you want to perform, Taka? I'm not really sure. What's the best caffeine to use in a coffee duel? If you want to win a coffee duel, there are 4 types of caffeine that cuppers usually perform. Fire caffeine, an attack-based caffeine that showers your opponents with choking hot flames. There's vaporization caffeine, where you can convert water into piping hot steam. It could throw your opponents off their feet. Protection caffeine is, of course, a good one to use as well. It helps counter any attack-based caffeine and avoids damage to you physically. And the last is teleportation. You can try teleporting yourself behind the opponent and give him a good chop on the head. But teleportation is also the most difficult caffeine to perform. So I would not advise you to start from there. You might want to try something easier at first, like fire caffeine. We plan on using fire, teleportation, protection, vaporization, fire. What protection? I don't like the story of the protection caffeine. Every time I read it, I get so nervous when Princess Victoria and her companions make it safely to the land of peach blossoms. But you already know the ending, right? Yes, I do, but every time it gets to the climax, I'm still nervous. Sounds like an exciting story. You make me want to read it now. I flip towards the page. On the right is an illustration of 3 people. There is also a wolf in the picture. What is this picture, Eliza?
Let me read this story to you.
Let me read it to you, Taka, so you'll understand what the picture is about. Thanks, Eliza, but I can read about myself.
Oh, you don't want me to read it to you?
Alright, you can read it to me.
I'd be happy to.
And then I read it. The story of Protection Caffeine is about Lady Aberdeen, the personal guard of Princess Victoria. The story goes that Princess Victoria and her most trusted companions enter Shangri-La. There, they were on a quest to search for the legendary cave of the Kunlun Mountains. The legendary cave led to a valley where the Ultimum Capulus Faba resided. It was the key to defeating the Praetorians. After searching for a couple of days, they located the cave. Then they descended into the deep abyss of darkness. Inside the cave, they witnessed a network of underground lakes and streams. Thousands of fireflies glowed above the surface of the icy clear water. The scent of revitalizing herbs lingered in the background. Distant waterfalls produced a backdrop of calming ambience that soothed the explorer's mood. It was the most magnificent scenery they had ever seen. At the end of the cave was a statue. Patches of light shone in from the tiny leaks on the cave top. The floor gave way to 4 patches of light that flickered under the magical landscape. The statue was in the middle. The statue was in the image of a wolf. It proudly stared across the limelights towards the brave but wary visitors. Suddenly, the wolf spoke. The gates to the land of the peach blossoms will only open to those brave enough to face their ultimate fears. The bravest will place their fighting arm under my teeth, while the others will each step on the patch of light and face the visitors of their worst fears, or face the visions of their worst fears. Last until sunset, and the gates of the land of the peach blossoms will open. If you step off the patch of light, I will close my mouth. If you remove your arm from my mouth, the gates will be forever closed. Or the gates will be closed forever. Lady Aberdeen and the personal guard of Princess Victoria volunteered to put her arm under the wolf's mouth. The wolf admired her bravery. But before doing so, she performed the protection caffeine to help her companions face the worst nightmares. 4 of her companions, Lady Argyle, Lady Clearwater, Lady Admiralty, and Princess Victoria, each stepped onto a patch of light and waited for their visions to appear. The protection caffeine worked, and for an hour or 2 the explorers sat in peace. But the quietness of the cave soon gave way to an unsettling rattle as the protection caffeine slowly wore out and fear soon struck. Lady Argyle saw a vision of 1,000 cockroaches heading towards her. The cockroaches soon engulfed her entire body, intending to devour her piece by piece. But Lady Argyle only laughed and said, "Is that all you've got?" She turned the water inside the cockroaches into ice, and soon all the roaches were frozen on the spot. After that her vision vanished, and the sun wandered off, and her patch of light was replaced with a dark shadow, signaling her victory against her own fears of mutilation. Then it was Lady Clearwater's turn. She saw visions of her Mayan homeland, where her people were crying for help. The Praetorians reneged on their promise and invaded the Mayan valleys once again, massacring its people. Her people were crying out for help, asking for her return. Lady Clearwater could not stand it anymore and ran out of the patch of light, only to discover it was just a vision. When her vision disappeared, she looked in horror as the wolf's mouth descended towards Lady Aberdene's arm. But Lady Aberdeen wouldn't budge. She would not move away her arm in the face of danger, as that would lead to the failure of their mission to find the ultimum capulus faba. But before its teeth touched Lady Aberdeen's skin, the sun wandered towards the west, and Lady Clearwater's patch of light disappeared. The wolf's mouth stopped moving, and all sighed with relief. Vision slowly crept into Lord Admiralty, but he alone endured the nightmare's visions, and, very soon, the sun wandered off, and his spot disappeared. To this day, no one knows what Lord Admiralty saw, as he told no one. Then all eyes were on Princess Victoria. She saw visions of her brother, who had betrayed her to the Praetorians. She was confined to a marriage of convenience with the ugly king of Pretoria, whose runny nose kept bleeding disgusting snot. He would lick the snot with his tongue and swallow it in front of Princess Victoria. Princess Victoria could not stand this revolting sight, but when she remembered Lady Aberdeen, and remained on her spot, facing this unbearable scene. But the vision slowly morphed into an abyss of darkness, where her companions slowly vanished before her, one by one. The princess suddenly felt all alone in the world, and attempted to chase the shadows of her departing companions. She, of all, feared the loneliness and rejection by her closest friends, a thing she could not stand. But that's when she heard a lone voice echoing throughout the cavern. "I will always be there with you," he said. Slowly, Princess Victoria regained her posture and continued to sit there under the patch of light, for she knew she was not alone. Eventually, the sun wandered off to the west, and the patch of light disappeared, engulfing the cave in an abyss of darkness. But this was short-lived, as the gates opened. A bright stream of light shone onto the cave, and they were greeted to the land of peach blossoms, with Lady Aberdeen's arms intact. That was the day that the Cuppers of Victoria learned to face their greatest fears, and with that, they were finally able to find the ultimum capulus faba and end the caffeine wars. I observed the illustration once again. So, that's the wolf statue, and the doors of the peach blossoms just opened for them after they passed the trial. Now, this totally makes sense. Did you find the story exciting? Well, it was exciting, but isn't it a given that the story will always have a happy ending? The heroes always come out unscathed in the end, right? You're so cold-blooded, Taka. Even if the ending is predictable, shouldn't you still be worried about them? I'm trying, but it's hard. Anyway, let's get back to the cupping room. Let me brew you a cup of coffee and see if you can perform protection caffeine. We return to the cupping room, and Eliza starts brewing a cup of coffee with one of the coffee plungers on the shelves. Performing the protection caffeine is easy. Just look at me. If you can produce a good protection sphere covering your whole body, then all kinds of caffeine, such as fire caffeine, will have no effect on you. Oh, that's so cool. Let me try. So what I have to do is to drink this cup of coffee. What kinds of flavors am I looking for? So, in order to trigger the protection caffeine, all you have to do is identify the aromatic notes of black tea and find the sweet wild grass flavors. Doesn't it sound easy? Always sounds easy on paper. Anyway, let me take a sip first. Just when I take a sip of coffee, I notice a change in Eliza's surroundings, aura. Eliza, what are you doing? I'm generating fireballs so I can hurl them at you once you get the protection shield up. What? Is that even necessary? I don't even know if I can perform the protection caffeine yet. Of course, you need some motivation. If your life isn't in danger, you'll never need to release your potential. But what if I don't have any potential? Then you'll become a nice chewy roast on someone's dinner plate. That's not funny. Are you ready? No, wait. I haven't even touched my coffee yet. Hurry up, Taka. Coffee duels are not supposed to be this leisurely. I immediately start drinking the coffee in front of me, slowly allowing the liquid to nourish my tongue. Activate your protection shield now. I'm going to release my fireball. No! The fireball starts screaming towards me, and I give out a loud cry. My mind goes blank. For a moment, I cannot think properly. Fright takes hold of me. It takes a while for me to calm down. Taka, are you alright? Did it not work? Well, I guess it didn't work. I felt nothing. No protection barrier.
Oh no! Taka! Your trousers are on fire!
What? Ah, my pants are on fire! Help, Eliza. Use water caffeine to put it out. I can't perform water caffeine, Taka. Quick, wash it with water. Water? Where? That's when I remember there was a tap and sink in the cupping room. I run towards it as quick as I can. I throw my legs into the sink, and immediately a gush of water pumps out once I turn the tap on. I'm all wet now. I'm sorry, Taka. That's supposed to be the easiest form of caffeine to master. That doesn't make it any more comforting for me. Don't be sad. I'm sure it's just because you need more practice. Perhaps we should take it easy. Let's see if you can create a protection barrier without me shooting any fireballs at you. No. No? Keep shooting fireballs at me. We'll do it your way. Alright. For the next few hours, we keep practicing. I keep trying and trying, but still, I couldn't perform anything close to caffeine. Very soon my whole body is hammered. All the energy that I felt when I had that first cup of coffee is gone. But I still want to try that again. Finally, after a few hours...
I don't understand. How come you can't perform caffeine? You already heard the story. You also correctly identified the flavors in your cup of coffee. Perhaps there's still something missing.
What could it be? What's missing?
I'm not really sure, Taka.
I don't like the sound of that. If Eliza doesn't know, then probably no one else would know.
Perhaps we should call it a day.
But... I don't have time. If I don't learn how to perform caffeine, then I won't be able to pass the barista test. If I can't pass the barista test, then Taka Coffee House will have to close down. And Alice.
I'm sorry, Taka.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have let it out on you. It's not your fault.
No, Taka. I feel responsible. It makes me feel bad if I can't help you. Let me help you. I'll be here every day for the next few weeks. We will find a solution together.
Together?
Yes, together. We will find out how you can perform cupping. I am not giving up until you can do so. I'll ask around and see if there's anything we can do. Please, come again.
I walk slowly back to the coffee house. My footsteps are heavy and my head is down. I feel so tired, not physically but mentally. The stress of not being able to perform caffeine is starting to sink in. But I can't give up. Not just because I want to continue to see my name on the coffee house. Not just because I want to make sure Alice still has a pastry shop which she can call home. It's also because Eliza wants me to succeed. Her urgency is so genuine. At this moment, I feel I can't let her down. Not after how much effort she has put into helping me. Where should I head to next? Let's go visit Ocean. Here I am, back at Moria Coffee House. I've been a really good student. I actually asked Eliza to teach me some cupping skills. Hope Ocean will appreciate it and not give me that look. I guess that's too much to ask for. What's too much to ask for? To ask for a smile? What are you murmuring about? Hope you're not thinking about weird things in front of me. I am not. I look around the coffee house. It's emptier than usual. Not many customers today, huh? I'm not surprised, given the news that just broke out. I have complicated feelings about it. What do you mean, complicated feelings? Ocean doesn't reply. It seems that she doesn't want to talk about it. I couldn't quite gauge what her thoughts are. She definitely isn't scared like Alice or oblivious like Eliza. I wonder what she's thinking. Let's cut to the chase. Before we start with our coffee training, have you had any luck with caffeine? Not much, to be honest. Coffee Girl tried to teach me caffeine, but we didn't have much progress. Coffee girl? Just someone who I met at the coffee academia. Well, there's espresso girl as well. Tried an espresso at Sparkwood, but nothing came out. No fireball, no spark. Wait, did you say you went to Sparkwood Coffee House? Yes, I did. Is something wrong? Everything is wrong. You just told me you drank water from the toilet. Hey, it wasn't that bad. Everything tastes all right when it enters your insensitive tongue. To be fair, that shot of espresso tasted better than what I get at Sparduck's. Then Sparduck's must be located in hell. You really have a huge enmity towards Sparkwood, don't you? Which is perfectly reasonable. Coffee beans that no other coffee house wants to get dumped into... Wait. Coffee beans that no other coffee house wants gets dumped into Sparkwood. They add steam milk and lots of sugar to cover its deficiencies, and not to mention mixing robusta coffee beans to lower their prices. Sparkwood Coffee House is the coffee that cuppers loathe, the imposter of coffee. And you tell me you went there and ordered an espresso? How could you stoop yourself down to such a level? Oh, because I'm poor. They have nicer people and better service. Because I wanted a latte. Oh, because I'm poor. Oh, because I really wanted coffee, but I didn't have any money. So I had to go to Sparkwood to get myself an espresso. I know it's bad, but that's the plight of... I know it's bad, but that's the plight of poor people like me. Alright, fair enough. So is it alright for me to go to Sparkwood Coffee House again? No, it's not. Listen, even if you are so poor you are left homeless on the street, you still should not sacrifice good coffee. Good coffee always comes first, understood? You're just joking, right? Do I look like I'm joking to you? Seriously, if you were homeless on the street, you still wouldn't give up coffee? A home is just a shelter, but coffee is life. You don't need a shelter if you have no life. No coffee, no life. If you truly appreciate the beauty of coffee, you will do everything to get the best cup of coffee in the morning. Good coffee is the catalyst that motivates you to become a person of wealth and status. People who yearn for good coffee are never poor, because they will do anything to fight for their daily cup of coffee. Alright. Just for the record, I was doing pretty well before coffee became such a big part of my life. Alright, let's put that aside. Lift that kettle up. Lift that kettle up? Yes, I want to see how you do your pour-over. Pour water into that coffee filter. I do as she says. I lift the water kettle up and start pouring water into the filter. Do it slow and evenly. Your pour should be like drips of water flowing out at an even pace. She says it casually, but it proves to be too difficult. The water just comes out with a huge splash. I quickly lift it back up, but then the water stops flowing. I try again only to witness another violent flow of water nearly spilling out from the funnel. Stop. That's enough. Just as I thought, you simply haven't had enough practice. Passing the barista test with the pour-over technique requires at least 1,000 hours of pour-over practice. Your current posture suggests that you only have, 5 hours at most? The examiner isn't dumb. He'll notice straight away. So what am I supposed to do? I don't have 1,000 hours to practice my pouring technique before the test. Am I doomed? I'd advise you to go for the siphon instead. The siphon? What is a siphon? I guessed as much. Come with me. I'll show you what a siphon is. Ocean leads me over to the counter. On the counter is an apparatus that looks like it came straight out from a chemistry lab. If the coffee pour-over is about appreciating the techniques and skills of the barista, then the siphon is a celebration of science. The siphon was created back in the 19th century. Baristas at the time believed that boiling the coffee killed the aromas inside it. The siphon solves that problem by creating a full immersion experience without directly heating the coffee grounds. Instead, it uses physical laws to mix the grinds with water. Standing over the table before me is a glass spherical bulb connected to a stand. What you're seeing here is the bottom half of the siphon. Here is the top half of the siphon, a glass cylinder with a connecting tube that runs into the bottom sphere. When water in the bottom bulb is heated, water vapor is generated inside the bulb, pushing the remaining water up through the siphon tube into the upper chamber. Once the water is in the upper chamber, we pour the coffee grinds. Using a bamboo paddle, we stir with a constant rotation to mix it properly, allowing it to react with the water. The coffee grinds will slowly dissolve and become coffee. Stir constantly. Keep smelling the aromas to determine when the coffee is ready. Once we get the ideal flavors to come out, we remove the heat source. The water vapor trapped inside the bottom cylinder will start to condense, pushing the coffee back down into the bottom of the cylinder by forces of gravity. And there you have it, a crisp and bright siphon coffee. If the coffee grind contains 100 different aromatic elements, then a good pour over might be able to bring out 50 to 60 different elements in a single pour. But a siphon can only bring out up to 80 of the 100 different aromatic flavors from a single lot of coffee grinds. Wow, this coffee preparation technique is straightforward. I can remember all the steps by heart. This looks simple enough, so I don't need to be good at pouring. All I need to do is stir and stir. If it were that simple. Let me show you how you brew a cup of coffee with the siphon. Watch carefully. The art of good coffee brewing is to observe and imitate. I stand there quietly observing Ocean's elegant posture while she brews her coffee. From preparing the grinds to warming the water, her every action has its purpose. Just the right amount of effort, not a single bit of energy is wasted. It's true that with siphon coffee you don't need to be good at pouring, but you still need to be good at one crucial thing. And what is that? You need to have a great sense of smell. To make or break of a good siphon coffee is determined by whether you know when to remove the heat source. There are phases when flavors and aromas are released. Floral, fruity aromas are always the first to be released, because the particles are the smallest. So if you're looking for coffee with a rich smell of fruits and flowers, then you better remove the heat source earlier, when the smell is strongest. If you heat it for longer, then the floral and fruity smells start to disappear, replaced by mellow sweet flavors like herbs and vanilla. And if you continue to heat it, you start to get pungent roasty flavors. Lastly, if you heat it for too long, the coffee will start to smell ashy, which means your coffee is already burned. I hear a faint bubbling sound popping up from the coffee while the gas flames subtly make their hissing sounds. A soft ambience complements the melodic piano in the background. Ocean, with spatula in hand, stirs the coffee with an even, consistent motion. All her focus is on the coffee itself, her nose in action as she sniffs for the aromatic particles that are flowing out in abundance. She keeps gazing at the coffee, her face slightly fogged by the steams of vapor pouring out from the surface. Stir, stir, stir. Stir, stir, stir. Not even a mouse. Ocean, come closer. Come closer? Yes, I want you to come closer. I want you to come and smell the coffee. See if you can tell me when I should remove the heat source. Oh, that makes sense. I walk closer and find ourselves only a couple of inches away from each other. Ocean quickly glances at me, but says nothing and turns her eyes back to the siphon. The coffee bean I'm using has a signature pungent flavor to it. You should be able to identify cinnamon as well as a slight vanilla flavor. Your job is to identify the smell at the right moment and then tell me when I should remove the heat source. Removing the heat source too soon or too late means that we won't be able to get the most of this coffee bean. Understood? I find myself, once again, transported to coffee dreamscape. So, what do we have here? Wait, what am I looking for? Should be advice cinnamon and slight vanilla. Okay. Not yet. Oranges, peach, grapes, and lots of flowers. Not yet. Maple syrup, close enough stop. Not yet. Vanilla and cinnamon, stop. Nice. Coffee with a signature flavor note of cinnamon and vanilla, with some almond flavors in the background as well. I have to say I'm impressed. You do have a strong sense of smell. I think I've got the gist of it. I should be able to practice by myself when I get back to the coffee house. One more thing. Did you say you had trouble performing caffeine? Which caffeine were you trying out? The protection caffeine. Herby, tea-like scent. Identified them without any problems. but I couldn't produce a protection spell. Nothing at all. Impossible. You must have felt something. Unless you are unfamiliar with Victoria's legacy. Aha, I knew you would say that. As a matter of fact, I already know about Lady Aberdeen's story. The story of how she was brave enough to put her arm inside the wolf's mouth. But in the end, the companions passed their test and Lady Aberdeen left with her arm intact. What are you talking about? Lady Aberdeen had her arm cut off. What? The story goes that Lady Aberdeen refused to remove her arm and the wolf statue landed its teeth on her, cutting it off. Blood spilled across the floor and her cries were heard among all her companions. Historically, the event was known as the Cry of Aberdeen. No way, that's not what I read. Oh, I get it now. You were told the kids' version of the story. The kids' version? Yes, the version where they all passed the test. You telling me the story I heard isn't the true version? Were you told the version where Lady Argyle and Princess Victoria were both given comical fears to face instead of true fears? Comical fears? Yes, comical fears, like a million cockroaches and a snotty king. Repeat that to yourself and hear how absurd that sounds. I can't believe you believe that. How old are you? Wait, if that isn't what happened, then what actually happened? Here, I'll show you. Before me is another picture book. The book is similar to the one that Eliza read to me, but the title of this book is called A Dark History of Victoria's Legacy. Even the book title gives me the creeps. Why are you staring at me? Aren't you going to read it to me? Are you serious? Don't you know how to read? I'm not going to read the book to you. Read it yourself. All right. I flipped through the chapter about Lady Aberdeen and her protection caffeine. I look at the picture. It was not the picture of Lady Aberdeen with her arms intact. Instead, I find a picture of Eva Aberdeen crying in agony as the wolf statue's mouth closed in on her arm. Her arm was cut off, lying on the floor. My heart shivered. I started reading the passages. Princess Victoria and her most trusted companions entered Shangri-La. They were on a quest to search for the legendary cave in the Kunlun Mountains. The legendary cave led to a valley, where the remaining source of the Ultim Capulus Faba was. It was the key to defeating the Praetorians. It was the same coffee bean from which Princess Victoria's ancestor, Princess Alodia, performed the Touch of Alodia, the caffeine that led to the end of the 20-year conflict in the Aksumite Empire 8 centuries ago. Princess Victoria and her companions located the cave and made their descent into the deep, dark abyss. Clear and running water soon gave way to a stagnant, pest-infested swamps. Its foul odor drenched the soul with a layer of insufferable disgust. Moss and algae that lined the rims of the walls soon disappeared as the explorers continued to descend along the treacherous pathway that grew narrower every mile. At the end of the cave was a statue. Patches of sunlight shone in from the tiny leaks on the cave top. The floor gave way to 4 patches of light that flickered under the cyan-tinted air. The statue was in the image of a gigantic wolf. Its disfigured face seemingly howled towards the intruders. Its terror-stricken eyes scowled towards the horrified explorers at every angle within the confines of the stench-ridden cage. Its mouth wide open, imaginary growls and howls echoed up within the chamber. So sharp and petrifying were its canine teeth, the explorers' imagination started to wander off into nightmares. Words were carved on the plaque before the wolf statue. The gates to the land of the peach blossoms will only open to those brave enough to face their ultimate fears. The bravest will place their fighting arm under my teeth, while the lesser brave souls will step onto the patch of light and face their ultimate fears in life. Endure until sunset, and you will be rewarded with the key to the gates of the land of peach blossoms. Leaving a patch of light will lead to the closing of my mouth. Removing your arm will result in the gates forever remaining sealed. Lady Aberdeen, the personal guard of Princess Victoria, volunteered to be the bravest. She placed her right arm under the growling teeth of the hungry wolf, whose stony eyes stared at her with an evil grimace. But before she did, she performed the protection caffeine towards her 4 other companions, blessing them with the protection barrier to help them endure the fears from their nightmarish visions. 4 of her companions, Lady Argyle, Lady Clearwater, Lady Admiralty, and Princess Victoria, each stepped onto the patch of light and waited for their nightmarish visions to appear. The protection caffeine worked, and for an hour or 2 the explorers sat in peace. But the quietness of the cave soon gave way to an unsettling rattle, and the protection caffeine slowly wore out as fear soon struck. Lady Argyle saw the visions of her mutilated body as hundreds of raging sailors ran towards her. Her greatest fear was the mutilation of her own body, and upon seeing the angry faces of the sailors whom she had once assassinated, killed, and mutilated, she screamed and ran out of the patch of light. The wolf's mouth started to close with an aggressive snarl, but Lady Aberdeen kept her arm in place, for she knew that if she removed her arm, the gateway to the ultimum Capulus Faba would be forever lost. Fortunately, the sun made its way slowly to the west, and Lady Argyle's patch of light soon vanished. The wolf's mouth stopped moving. Then it was Lady Clearwater's turn. She saw visions of her Mayan homeland, where her people were crying for help under the hellish fires of the Praetorian armies. The Praetorians reneged on their promise and invaded the Mayan valleys once again, massacring its people. Her people were crying out for help, begging for her return. Lady Clearwater could not stand it anymore and ran out of the patch of light, vowing to return and save her people. That's when her vision disappeared, and to her horror the wolf's mouth descended towards Lady Aberdeen's arm once again. The sharp piercing teeth touched the surface of Lady Aberdeen's arm, and soon the foot of the statue was drenched in a sea of blood. Lady Aberdeen clenched her teeth and remained in her position. Very soon the sun continued to move towards the west, and Lady Clearwater's patch of light disappeared. The mouth ceased to move, but its teeth were deeply entrenched inside the arm of the bravest. A vision slowly crept into Lord Admiralty, but he alone endured the nightmarish visions, and, very soon, the sun wandered off and his spot disappeared. To this day no one knew what Lord Admiralty saw, as he told no one. Then all eyes were on Princess Victoria. Princess Victoria saw visions of her confinement in that gloomy palace she used to call home. Betrayed by her brother, she was confined to a political marriage with the evil king of Pretoria, whose terrible stench soaked the princess in a sea of sorrows every night. Princess Victoria's greatest fear was confinement, and she ran as quick as she could towards the nearest door, trying to escape from this imaginary nightmare. That's when the mouth of the wolf collapsed onto Lady Aberdeen's arm, and she gave a huge shriek, and her cries pierced throughout the cave. The sun slowly wandered away, and the cave descended into darkness. The wolf's mouth slowly crept open, displaying Lady Aberdeen's detached arm soaked in blood. The gates to the land of peach blossoms opened before them, but not without a huge cost, for only Lady Aberdeen's bravery made it possible for them to finally find Ultimum Capulus Faba, and with that, the conclusion of the Caffeine Wars with Victoria's victory. And that's all thanks to Lady Aberdeen, the bravest of the 5 cuppers. Wow, just wow. That was terrible, and Lady Aberdeen lost her arm. No, there's no way I can believe it. What's so hard to believe? I mean, one version says she lost an arm, and the other says she didn't. Certainly that wouldn't be hard to verify. Can we just ask the descendants of Lady Aberdeen whether she lost an arm? Of course, the descendants will tell you that she didn't lose an arm. How would they look if everyone started to believe that Lady Aberdeen cried like a baby upon losing an arm? House Aberdeen needs to look good. That's why they fabricated another story that puts the 5 houses in a better light. But reality is always different. The history of Victoria is built upon blood and treachery. Do you really think it was possible for Victoria to become the most powerful city-state in the world without shedding a single drop of blood? Every empire built their foundations on the suffering of others. The Victorian Empire, the West Coast states, the Oxamite Empire, and Victoria are no exceptions. You just have to look into the intrigues and blood spilled by the cuppa houses of Victoria and know what I say is true. The founder, Princess Victoria, and her companions have blood on their hands, every single one of them. So now you understand why you can't perform caffeine, because you were given the wrong version of the story. Now, as long as you believe in this version and hold this version of the story to be the one and only truth, then you should be able to perform caffeine. Alright, your version makes more sense. I still believe in the happy ending. You seem to have a huge resentment towards Victorian cuppers. I mean, that version does make sense. I mean, that's what I would say. I do have to say your version makes more sense. I'm glad that we are in agreement. Then let's not waste time. Alright, so shall I try to perform caffeine in front of you? Not here. Not now. Do it at home. What? You're not going to teach me caffeine? I only promised to teach you how to brew coffee. I didn't say I was going to teach you caffeine. Besides, caffeine cannot be taught. It is an art that comes to you. You make it sound so simple. What if I still can't do caffeine before the barista test? Well, find another way. But for now, I need to know your commitment. I'm committed. I'll do everything to pass the barista test. I'd rather you sit on it for a day before making a promise to me. What else is there? I don't have time. You need to know, once you become my apprentice, there will be no rest. You will cry, you will scream, you wish that you were never born. You will try to end your life, but I won't allow it, because becoming my student means that you will become a barista. You will become a barista for life, and you're not allowed to die until you become one. Understood? Understood. I will not allow my soul to perish until I become a barista. Good. Now let's sit for a day or two. If your passion to learn still burns, then I know you are ready. Wait, I already said I'm determined. I mean willing to batter my soul. There's no rush. Mentality is just as important in becoming a great barista. But I am determined. The wise Moria Sensei once said, "He who cannot wait for a day to curb his enthusiasm is not a student worth teaching." Alright, I get it. I'll come back later. Is there anything else you need before heading off? Give the dolphin card to Ocean. What does that mean? Yeah, sure, here. What is this? It's a dolphin card. I'm asking you for your permission to dolphin out with each other. A courting card? There's no sense of shame, do you? You dare present this to me while I'm working? Oh, okay, I kind of forgot what it was. No, I'm good. I walk out of Moria Coffee House. The streets are quiet. Even the trams are not moving, as there are barely any commuters. The atmosphere is so creepy. I should go. Where should I go to next? I guess I'm done. Alice was right. Visiting so many places in one day does take stamina. I'm ready to go back to the coffee house. Looks like the elusive harem ending is beyond me. What harem ending? It's not that kind of story. Alice, I'm back. Eh? As soon as I walk into the coffee house, I spot a familiar face. Ah, Taka, my best buddy. How are you? Oh, I remember you. You're Song. Why do you call me Song? Song is my last name. Eve is my first name. Oh, I'm sorry. Last time at the park, you introduced yourself as Song Eve. My people always put our surnames before our first names. You should be more sensitive to the customs and culture of the Shangri-La people. Is he your friend, Taka? Yes, meet my best new buddy. Yeah, she's my new BBF, my best buddy forever. Give me a high five. Give you a what? I'm not touching your hands. You have coffee grinds all over them. Okay, not buddies anymore. That's great. I'm so happy you're making friends in Victoria. But how'd you two meet? We kicked the enforcer's ass by humiliating him in front of Queen Victoria's statue. Oh no, Taka. Is that why Constantine was so angry with you? It's not nice to meet it's nice to meet new people, but you should be careful of bad influences. Bad influences? I'm not a bad influence. The enforcer deserved it. He was so rude with Taka there. I couldn't help but teach him a lesson he will never forget. And we sure did teach that comical guy a lesson. I will tell my grandkids this story for generations to come. But I'm surprised, Taka, that you have your own coffee house. Having a coffee house named after yourself at such a young age is no easy feat. Actually, it's not my coffee house. It's Alice's. Oh, you haven't introduced me to your wife yet. I'm Song Eve. Nice to meet you. I'm Alice, but I'm not his wife. Alice is not my wife. Why? What even made you think that? Oh, you're not. It's becoming fashionable for husbands and wives to open their own coffee houses these days. Besides, I thought for someone to name a coffee house after you, she could only be your parent or your wife. Or have I underestimated your age, Alice? You are actually Taka's mom? You're being ridiculous. You can tell straight away that we are the same age. I'm not Taka's mom. I should have renamed this coffee house a long time ago. How would I know? How would I know? I've met women from the great empire of tea who looked 20 when they were actually 60. You are a tea person, aren't you? Yes, I do prefer tea more than coffee. How did you know? I can tell. Just look at how smooth your skin is. Can I touch your hands? Oh, wow. You own a coffee house, but your hands are like silk. Tea has caffeine that helps you stop from aging. The younger you start, the better the upkeep. Keep drinking tea, and I won't be able to resist pinching your face. I can't help but feel this conversation is getting a bit steamy. It makes me want to touch Alice's hands. Taka, why is your face all creepy? Are you thinking of something very inappropriate? What do you mean? I wasn't thinking of anything particularly rude. Oh, those cakes look nice. I'll have this one, I'll have that one, I'll have this one and that one. I love cakes, especially when the cakes look so nice. I could eat this forever. Yum, yum. I will prepare your order. What should I ask Eve? Why'd you come to Victoria? So, what brings you here to Victoria, Eve? Trading, of course. I'm a flying merchant. I own an airship fleet. I do trading of all sorts. Let me guess. You're a firearms merchant? I do that as well, but that's not my primary business. I just carry a gun around because they are a traveling merchant's best friend. Flying from Shangri-La to Victoria is a treacherous route to take. Every year, dozens of airships are lost to pirates. Air bandits who hide in the shadows of the mountains can suddenly fire on your fleet. Even one hit on the envelope would down an airship. That's when we need to defend against a swarm of bandits running towards your grounded ships. Sounds like being a merchant is a dangerous profession. It's only dangerous if you plan to take the air route. Sea routes are safer with the Victorian fleet keeping the waters safe. Unfortunately, for a landlocked nation like Shangri-La, we can only use the air route. But it's getting safer these days, especially after the invention of scout planes. We now send our scout planes to scan the mountains for any hidden artillery, so we can neutralize them before the airship comes into shooting range. Planes? Like propeller planes? You know what planes are? I'm impressed. No one in Victoria seems to know about their existence yet, except for a few industrialists at the Northern Peninsula. Victoria's technology infrastructure is at least 25 years behind us. Probably in a few decades, all the airships flying into Victoria will be replaced by planes. Right, why don't we stop it there? This is Audapostrophe. You've been watching Caffeine, Victoria's Legacy, running on Nintendo Switch. Yeah, I mean, obviously this is for coffee nerds. It's a story woven around coffee nerd culture, but with caffeine also being magic. So it's coffee and magic culture, and old Victorian, like an old Victorian setting, but in an alternate universe taking place during modern times, which is a lot going for it. I like it so far. It's good stuff. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream.